Hello EFE squad and welcome back to your second episode of UCL Review in as many days. You're welcome. We've got a lot on today, so we're going to get straight through this. No banter beforehand, just straight into the game. Joe, Liverpool, Man City, go.
Well, Manchester City got smashed about, didn't they? The all-conquering, I know, pretty sure. The all-conquering Manchester City, that is, got hammered 3-0 by Liverpool at Anfield in front of what I would say is the best atmosphere, the best crowd I have seen on English soil on a European night, potentially ever in my lifetime. I've actually got a few clips of the crowd, of the atmosphere. Let's quickly roll them. On the field though, Pep Guardiola's struggles at knockout stages of the Champions League continue, don't they? Obviously hasn't made it past a semi-final at Bayern Munich or Manchester City. It's pretty relative, isn't it? Because semi-final's still very impressive. But nevertheless, probably the best coach on the planet right now, managing two of the best clubs on the planet. So you're expecting maybe one Champions League final over the last few seasons, but it hasn't been. And I think one of the biggest reasons for that is his struggles in the first legs of these big games to score goals. Against Real Madrid, he lost 5-0. He lost 3-0 against Barca the season after that. He lost 1-0 against Atletico the season after that. Even last year against Monaco, he only scraped one, didn't he, away from home. So not the best. And then last night, I personally think he got it badly wrong. Laporte at left back, I wasn't convinced about. I think the option to use Ilkay Gundogan wide left Kyle Walker extremely exposed against Andy Robertson and Sadio Mane. And I didn't understand the thought behind dropping an on-form Raheem Sterling at all. Yes, he might have been a little bit overawed by the Liverpool atmosphere, but nevertheless, I think he's been one of your best players all season. Why tinker with it on such a big game? He doesn't like playing against Jurgen Klopp, does he? Let's face it, he's got one win in his last 6 games against the German. On the opposite side, the German loves to play against Manchester City. Since he joined Liverpool, he's scored more goals, his side have scored more goals against City than they have against any other team in the Premier League. 17, that's seriously impressive. In fact, 18% of City's goals conceded this season have come against the Reds. That is madness. That is absolutely ridiculous. So massive plaudits go to Jurgen Klopp. Massive plaudits go to the Liverpool atmosphere because I think the stadium was a real contributing factor to this one. But to get to a semi-final, or on the verge of a semi-final, with a midfield three of Henderson, Milner and Oxlade-Chamberlain is nothing short of genius.
Yeah, well, he's getting the best out of these players who in the past have been much maligned, isn't he? In fact, I'd say every one of Liverpool's back four was a candidate for man of the match in one way, shape or form. Trent Alexander-Arnold, I thought was absolutely brilliant on the night. So did everyone else. I think he got our man of the match on the poll we put out with 61%. So it was there for everyone to see. 77 touches, 10 clearances, 7 interceptions, the most of any player on the pitch. 4 tackles, also the most of any player on the pitch. And Manchester City clearly identified him as a weakness. They were trying to play the ball out to Sane time and time again, and he stood up to the challenge. I thought every now and then he got caught out positionally, but his athleticism meant that he more than made up for it. And he was just up for it. He was pumped up for it.
So good.
He was feeding off the energy in the crowd. And now people are already calling for him to be included in the England World Cup squad. So, crazy. Mad what one game can do for you. Andy Robertson on the other flank, who cost £8 million from Hull. I don't think you could prize him away from Liverpool for any less than 30 now. What a bargain that is looking like, because the engine on the man.
It's incredible. I don't know where I get it from.
It's like a F1 fighter jet, if that's the thing. F1? Nah, I'm not sure. Yeah, he was ferocious in the tackle, brilliant on the overlap, and made 5 interceptions and 3 tackles with an 89% pass accuracy. Bearing in mind, at points, he was Liverpool's most advanced player.
Awesome combination with Sadio Mane on that left-hand side. Walker was getting so exposed by the overlap.
And I think that was part of Pep's rationale for putting Gundogan there, to kind of shore things up on that right-hand side. But Gundogan kept coming centrally and leaving that a lot of space on that flank, didn't he? I think he had a tendency to sort of drift into the midfield. Raheem Sterling, as soon as he was brought on, but Manchester City were much more threatening, and he brought Gabriel Jesus into the game a lot more. We'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
What did you want to add?
I was just going to say, I looked at Ilkay Gundogan's heat map this morning, and he had a massive issue of drifting centrally. If you look at his heat map, it is all over the pitch. It's like a central midfielder, and that is the reason that right flank was so exposed, I think, last night.
Yeah, because he's actually, when he's played really well for Manchester City this season, it's been as a deep-lying playmaker, or actually as a central attacking midfielder on points, hasn't it? Manchester City, though, oddly, we've not seen this all season, struggled going forward. They didn't have a single shot on target. Karius and Van Dijk had pretty easy nights at the office, didn't they? And it's the first time that's happened since the 26th of October 2016 against Manchester United in the League Cup. And part of this was because Gabriel Jesus was so isolated. He was so frustrated. We saw him,
kicking people,
thrashing around, thrashing around the ref, kicking out. He eventually got booked, didn't he? But he only completed 6 passes in the first half. And considering, I think he's been averaging around 25 to 30 in the Premier League. That's not great, is it? And 3 of those are actually from kickoff.
Mental, absolutely mental.
It was also probably Leroy Sané's worst game of the season, and he's been one of Manchester City's most consistent performers. Massive fan of him. He was clearly a prominent feature of City's game plan, like we said, but 0 chances created, 0 shots on target, 0 crosses completed, and 9 losses of possession, which was the most on the pitch. I mean, he was trying to provide the impetus, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So you're expecting him to lose the most possession, but unusually wasteful in the final third. His best chance probably being that shot he kind of sliced.
Oh, he had such a good chance in the first half, I thought, when he dribbled from the centre circle all the way in. And he's got Gabriel Jesus on the right and KDB on the left, and he scuffs and squats one right.
But yeah, so a couple of things we've identified as why we think this tie was so one-sided. Gundogan, Sterling not starting, Jesus isolated, and just, you can't really account for something like Oxlade-Chamberlain's goal, can you?
You can't, it's absolute blockbuster. But I just think, I kind of feel like City underestimated the atmosphere. They underestimated the history a little bit. I think they went in a little bit cold.
There's been a lot on Twitter about the atmosphere today, and I think football is so methodic and scientific that you'd like to think that the atmosphere doesn't play as big a role as some people make out. And when commentators refer to Anfield as a great European stage, haven't they only been in the Champions League twice in the last 10 years?
Yeah, they have.
So great European Cup stage, but cheap dig there at the end.
The next game we're looking at, neither of us watched, but we have caught a little bit of highlights this morning. It's Barcelona versus Roma, Hamster.
Yeah, I didn't have time to even watch the good highlights.
No.
I watched the 5-minute package where the commentary wasn't in tandem with what I was watching.
Oh, yeah.
So it was all very confusing, and they'd sort of like cropped in to avoid getting video IQ on YouTube.
Dream.
But yes, Barcelona beat Roma 4-1 at the Camp Nou, meaning they've now won 20 of their last 21 Champions League games at home. So imperious in Barcelona. Scoreline flattering somewhat on Barcelona in the end, as Roma conceded 2 own goals. With the De Rossi one, pretty decent finish. I mean, a combative old Italian, but I think he's just seen Messi in his peripherals, and when that happens to you as a pro, you just must yourself.
Pure panic mode.
And limbs must just fly out.
Yeah, pure panic mode, because I think he could do a lot better than that. I don't think he's actually at full stretch. He's not toeing it, it's the side foot.
I think Messi probably scores that if the ball falls to him, though, although it was a difficult chance, and with Alisson in goal, you always stand a chance, don't you? And Umtiti pretty much forced the other OG, didn't he? So.
Well, Umtiti would have scored if he doesn't put it in, doesn't it?
Yeah. But in fact, Barcelona have now benefited from 5 own goals in the Champions League this season, a competition record. They're also only the 4th team ever to benefit from 2 own goals in a single game in the Champions League. So a couple of nuggets for you there. And Gerard Piqué made it 3. And in the process became the 3rd highest scoring defender in Champions League history. Can you name the others? Let us know in the comments below. They're quite difficult, actually. Yeah, well, one's not.
Oh, these guys were just Googling, weren't they?
Yeah.
You can see you cheating already. But I don't even know what Gerard Piqué is doing in that position.
Yeah,
it's just like a free-flowing
rebound, doesn't
and
he?
he's like a centre forward, like Ruud van Nistelrooy, sniffing around the 6-yard box. But at the death, obviously, Roma got one back, 3-1. You kind of thought, if they can get a second, that's a good result for Roma, 3-2. And Maybe they should have got a second. Obviously, Perotti. Deary me, the miss from Perotti.
I mean, he's been brilliant in the Champions League this season, but...
It is outrageous. If you haven't seen it already, he absolutely has to score. Anyway, at the death, Luis Suarez finally stepped up, got the 4th killer goal. I kind of think that means tie over. And it's a big relief for Luis Suarez, isn't it? It's his first Champions League goal since March 2017.
That's crazy.
So over a year ago, he has 1 goal in 9 appearances of this season now. And before this one, he'd taken 30 shots without scoring. He's scored on his 31st shot. But, you know...
full Benzema.
Yeah, he's literally
he's got 3 assists, though.
Yeah, he has got 3 assists. But I would say that I think Roma slightly unlucky to lose 4-1, maybe a little bit flattering, although Barcelona were very dominant in terms of possession and did create a lot of chances. I think they had 19 shots and 9 on target. So when you have 9 shots on target, I think you generally think you're going to win the game.
Yeah.
Although I didn't think Alisson had his best game either. Alisson was spilling everything. Every shot that came at him, he was spilling. And I know that that the PK goal is hard to stop. I just wonder if he can turn that around the post rather than palm it back. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking too much into it. But at the end of the day, I think Roma are a little bit harsh to lose 4-1.
Roma, Barcelona have been conceding 11 shots per game in La Liga this season, so that's pretty much par for the course, 12 shots, but 19. I'm not sure they're averaging as high as that, so Roma's defence a little bit porous.
Yeah, I know. And I think that there were chances at the other end. There was one really good chance, as well as the Perotti one, that Ter Stegen tried to do like a Cruyff turn in his own area and got the ball nicked off him, and he got played back to the 6-yard box, and then he somehow scrambles across, and Umtiti looked like he was going to kill him.
He made an exceptional save though in this game, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Well, that's a bit one for the cameras for me. It's straight at him.
Not that one. There's
one.
another one.
Oh,
at least on my highlights package.
His highlights package, maybe. My highlights package, it wasn't there.
Might have been the game last year.
Yeah.
We covered a game on You're Around It the other day that happened a month ago.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, you did actually. But never mind.
Cheers.
Barcelona through now, aren't they? So.
Semi-final against Liverpool, probably. What a game that'd be. So guys, thank you for watching this week's double header of UCL review. We'll be back next week with another, because, you know, good games happening all over the shop. Joseph, what else is happening on Football Daily? Euro Football Daily. This is your second day in the office. You should be in the know by now.
It'd be a top 10 on Football Daily, I'd imagine, today. What the title is, I haven't got a clue. And I'd imagine there'll be another video going out on EFD alongside this today. Will there?
No, that was yesterday.
That was yesterday.
And Football Mundial went out.
Yeah, go and check out Football Mundial. Zaka McCubbin talking nonsense about David De Gea's move.
Worst
It's not happening.
end board ever.